Would you like to know the secret to make your shears cut like new every time? Well, I'm Bonnie Megowan. I sometimes been called the Shear Whisperer, and I'm an award-winning sharpener with over 30 years in sharpening shears for the beauty industry professionally. I've been trained at factories in the USA and abroad, and I've taught people from all over the world how to sharpen shears and clipper blades. So how many of you think your shears could cut better? Have you paid a lot of money for your shears? Have you found that your shears last longer when you pay more? Not necessarily. There are some common problems that you're going to see that are easy to fix. It doesn't matter how much or how little you paid for your shears. These are problems that'll pop up and that you can fix right there in your salon without calling a sharpener. Do your shears flip and fold hair? Well, that's one of the most common problems, and you probably have a loose screw. You tighten your screw and your problems are all gone. Rarely it might be a dull shear, but most of the time, if you turn the screw and tighten it a little bit, check it, tighten it a little bit more, it's going to cut properly for you. Your shears should swing freely and not be too tight and not slam close. Find the right adjustment for your hand and for the way you want your shears to cut. Are your shears biting and pulling the hair? Are your customers saying, ouch, ouch? Or you just feel a little roughness there? You may have some nicks on your shears. Now, nicks can be caused by cutting dirty hair, throwing your shears in the drawer, letting them hit other things, or you could have dropped your shears on the floor. If you look close, you might see some little nicks along the edge. These are usually, if they're not too bad, can be rectified by using a nail buffer. Now, I don't mean an emery board. I mean a 3000 grit, very smooth nail buffer like you would use on the top of your fingernails. Run them over the edge of your shears on the outside and then on the inside, and you might be surprised at how smooth your shears feel and how they'll stop pulling the hair. Now, your shears going click, 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 and your tips overlapping. You may have lost your bumper. Look close at the handles on your shears. Is there an empty hole? I bet your bumper fell out. Look around your station, look around on the floor. In most cases, this bumper is a screw-in bumper and you can just screw it back in. If you can't find the bumper or it's a different type that's not a screw-in bumper, you can rectify this by just wrapping a Band-Aid or something that's going to go between your blades to keep your tips from overlapping and to keeping that harsh clack, clack, clack when you cut. It's not safe to use your shears without the bumper and with the tips overlapping. You could cut yourself or you could cut your customer. This is one of those repairs that's an emergency if you can't fix it right away, and you can call your sharpener, or you might be able to call the manufacturer from your shears and get them to send you a replacement bumper. Treat your shears as your babies and let them go night-night. You're going to wipe them off and clean them like you would your babies. Clean them with a soft cloth. We recommend 70% alcohol. Don't take them apart. You might not be able to put them back together. There's a lot of little washers and little parts and springs inside the screws that will be difficult for you to put them back together, but you can wipe them off from the hair. Don't use your terry cloth towels. Don't use anything rough on them. After you've cleaned them, you want to oil them. A little drop of oil, it doesn't take much, right at the pivot. Some of the oils come with a brush on it, so you can brush some of the hair out from underneath the pivot. Easy does it. Don't over oil it. Don't forget to oil where you have metal rubbing against metal, there at the pivot area of your shears. Think about setting your alarm clock for the night. This is your last thing you're going to do is check and see if the tension is still correct on your shears. You've been using them all day, shears loosen up. The oil might loosen them. Sometimes one little click can make a huge difference in the way your shears cut. And the last thing, you want to tuck your shears in for the night. Put them in some kind of case that breathes, something that oxygen will reach them, that keeps them from rusting. Keep them safe. Protect them from any falls. protect them from laying out on the counter where the cleaning staff might come and pick them up or cut something they shouldn't or knock them on the floor. And each of your shears needs to have their own bed. Put them in a separate compartment. They shouldn't be knocking against each other, which can cause nicks. And the last thing in taking care of your babies is make sure you get them a checkup. We recommend every 6 months have your shears checked up, even if they seem to be cutting okay. You may be surprised how your shears have dulled over the last months. One of the things you can check to see if your shears need sharpening is that we suggest you could cut a single ply tissue, like a really cheap toilet tissue or puff tissue. And if it cuts through cleanly, you may be all right to wait. Now let's talk a little bit about sharpening and sharpeners. There are a lot of myths out there about sharpening. One of the myths that you're going to see is that all sharpening is alike, and it's not. This is a grinder, and it looks like a bench grinder, and you'll see a lot of sharpeners have this type of system. Usually when they do, they will not come into your salon. They'll take your shears out to a van or take them back with them. This type of system also can change the edge from a convex to a bevel edge. Now you want to have your shears sharpened on a flat hung type system. This can be mobily or you can send them off for this sharpening. This is working on the outside surface of your shears, specially designed for convex edge shears. This is the type of system they're using in the factory, and this is the type of system that your top mobile shear sharpeners will use. Often they'll come inside your salon because this equipment is so quiet and clean, they can set up on a station right there while you're watching them. Another sharpening myth is that your shears, if you send them back to the company, are going to go back to the factory. No, they're not sending them overseas. They're going to some sharpeners that have been equipped and trained that are here in the United States. They may be sharpened by someone who just learned that day, or they may be sharpened by someone who's an experienced sharpener. Another myth about sharpening is that some of the companies are using lasers to sharpen their shears. We've heard this over and over. No. No one sharpens with lasers. You may think that the U.S. mail service will ship your shears safely and that they'll very carefully will be taken to the place of sharpening and come back to you safely. No way. They may be delayed. If they're lost, the U.S. mail service, UPS, FedEx, all of them will find ways not to pay you what your shears are worth, even if you've insured them. We know that from experience. There's been many a time that we've received the box with no shears in it. So if you can avoid mailing your shears and using a local sharpener that knows what they're doing, it's much better. One of the most common myths that we hear over and over, that the stylist will say their warranty will be voided if they don't use that company for sharpening. Now, you need to read the whole warranty. The warranty on most shears, other than Bonika, will say that the warranty covers only manufacturer's defects. And most of your companies will explain to you that manufacturer's defects are going to show up right away. Some of the warranties of some of the most expensive shears out there will state right there in the warranty that these manufacturer's defects will show up in the first 1 or 2 uses. After that, you have no warranty. By the time your shears need sharpening, they are out of any kind of warranty. Now, Bonika shears are different. If you lose your bumper, as we talked about that falling out, if you drop your shears on the floor and you break the tip, not nicks, now that's not covered under warranty, but if you break the tips, if the screw doesn't hold, if you have other types of problems like that on your shears, that's covered under our warranty, and it doesn't matter who sharpens your shears. It doesn't matter if you sent in your warranty card or if you have your receipt. If it's a Bonika shear, we know they're ours. Now, Bonika does not cover bad sharpening, and let's talk about that a little bit. How do you know that you got bad sharpening from your sharpener? Well, they should cut wet tissue, that single ply tissue I talked about earlier, smoothly without any tears. You can look at the edge of the shears. Were they convex before and now they're a bevel? Have they changed the whole geometry of your shears so they never cut the same? The ride line, that's a little shiny line inside the edge of the shears. The ride line should be smooth and shiny and even all the way down the shears. Sometimes the sharpeners don't know anything about the rod line, or they've changed your rod line. Closure shears. Are the tips meeting? Sometimes the tips don't meet and they'll pull hair. Sometimes your shears will feel crunchy. They haven't removed all the burrs and the nicks. Sometimes the tip will pull the hair. If you have thinning shears or texturizers, look at the teeth. Sometimes the teeth are damaged. The little V's that hold the hair are removed. Sometimes you have serrated shears and they remove the serration. Take a look at your shears before and after you have them sharpened. So with all the bad sharpening out there, how do you find a good sharpener? Well, I suggest you don't give them to just anybody that comes in the door. Ask for referrals, check the reviews, see if they have any certification. You want to look for beauty shear specialists, not just someone who's a sharpener who sharpens lawnmower blades and knives and whatever. We have a place on our website, findasharpener.com, and you can look up by zip code, postal code, whether you're in the United States, Canada, or even Europe. We have sharpeners lookups there. These are people that we know have the right equipment and the right training, and they should be able to give you a good sharpening for your shears. And then your last choice, if you can't find a sharpener, you don't have someone local that knows what they're doing, you can always send them to us. We have a system where we'll send you a box, you just put them in the box and send them back to us. And our turnaround is pretty quick. And of course, if you're at the hair show and we have a booth there, you can always come by the booth and have your shears sharpened right on the spot. So what if you could fix your shears yourself? Even if they are dull, even if they are nicked. Have you ever thought about becoming a shear sharpener? You can take control of your tools and you could create a side business or even a whole new profession. You already know about shears, you'll have instant credibility. Becoming a shear sharpener could open doors to sales, education, and travel. If you want to be a platform artist, an educator, you could sell shears and sharpen the shears while you're educating. And it's a lot easier on the body than standing behind the chair, and you're going to find it's really surprisingly fun and satisfying. I love sharpening. People that have come into this business have contacted me and said this is the most fun they've ever had. So if you have questions, you can contact me at Bonika Shears. It's information below in the description.